Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of MamaBare. My name's Brie, and today this episode is very near and dear to my heart in that we get to sit down and talk to the doula that brought my son into this world.
I'm here to stay with wisdom and warmth. Let's light the way. Together we'll light.
Her name is Kristi. She owns Mindful Moms and has experience as an RMT for 21 years and is a mother herself. So she brings a lot of experience into this conversation. We're going to talk about what a doula is, what separates her, makes her special as a doula, and talk about some of the natural mindset things you can do to prepare for labor with a doula by your side. So welcome, Kristi.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, this is super exciting.
It is, yeah.
Kind of a 2-in-1 in that we can catch up about my
Totally.
past labor experience with my son, and then get to sit down and record this episode.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here.
yeah. So can you talk about a little bit about what drew you to the doula field, and maybe go into a little bit more about what a doula is?
Yeah, sure. I always knew that I wanted to be in healthcare of some sort, but specifically to do with, babies. I think as like a 7-year-old, I was already called like mother hen. So it's just, I've always been pulled and like passionate about babies and interested. So I just started looking at different, career options. And funny enough, I thought OB for a while, which is really interesting because now there's nothing obviously wrong with them, but it's totally not the lifestyle that I would want.
Yeah.
And not even kind of the mindset, I guess. So I just started looking at different avenues or career options of how can I help people feel better and from a more natural standpoint, but also be the kind of mom and parent that I want to be, right? So I found massage therapy. And then I think anytime you're in the world of more like a holistic approach to medicine and health, you just kind of see all these like spin-offs and or ways that you can kind of enhance your practice and offer something different. And so because I already was naturally, interested in babies, just this seemed like a really good fit in terms of becoming a doula. And I just got to know a lady, Carol Pete. She's from the London area, and she taught the perinatal specialist course. That's what she called it. I mean, most people know it as a doula. But she became a really, really good friend and mentor to me, and she was my doula. So I kind of owe a lot of my career to her because she's the one that really got me interested.
Yeah. So she was the doula at your own
at
births.
all 3 of my births.
Wow.
And she also, taught me, and I've done different courses with her. Cool. And then I did work with her actually for several years before I stepped out of my comfort zone and decided let's just own it for yourself and go out on your own. So
did you connect the two at first, being a massage therapist and a doula, until you got going?
For sure, because one really supports the other well,
Totally.
right? A lot of people want hands-on support during their labor, and so obviously with my knowledge as an RMT,
Right.
it makes sense, right? And people actually would really love that. Although it's funny because some people think they really want a hands-on experience, and then they get into labor and they're like, no, don't touch me. Which is fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have all that knowledge of anatomy and physiology, so what the body's capable of, what promotes good muscle health and just health in general. So I feel like that's a big bonus, I guess, in terms of wearing the doula hat as well, right? And what I can offer clients.
Yeah.
It just kind of one sprung into the other, but they both supported each other well.
Awesome. So then why don't we back up a step and talk about what is a doula?
Right. A doula, I mean, if you go right down to the basics, I think it actually translates into female slave. So that's not my favorite, but it's more of women supporting women, right?
Okay.
And just providing physical, but yet emotional support. And I think the biggest difference between, like, say, a midwife, an OB, or other primary health care providers and a doula is that, well, the liability is huge. I don't have to worry about that side of things. I'm just there to provide support for both. So not just the mom, but also their partner as well, right? And just educating them, that's a huge, huge piece. And being able to take the time to do that properly, right? So when you educate women on what the different options are, then you also know that they're able to truly make informed consent, right? When it comes to different decisions. and just advocate for them. That's just a huge thing. So getting to know the couple, what they really want in their birth experience, and how to help them achieve that.
Right.
I hate when women walk away from birth and have all these regrets and things they wish they did differently. I feel like when you have a doula, there's less chance of that happening,
Right.
because you've got someone that is there solely for you and your partner, and to advocate for what you want.
Right.
And make sure everyone's on the same page too.
Yes. Another voice in the room on
Exactly.
your team. Yeah.
And just that third person to say, okay, let's take a minute, because there's always a minute,
Yes.
to stop and talk about things, right?
Right.
And then afterwards, one of my births went so quickly that my doula couldn't even make it in time.
Oh, wow.
But she was still there for all the aftercare and the postpartum
Right.
support that I needed, which
Yeah.
I did, even though it was my second time
Right.
having a baby. It's completely different, right? Every experience is so different. So her support was invaluable to me, even though she wasn't technically there for the birth.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
something when I, brought on a
Yeah.
doula into our birth, we did not, I knew I was going to have postpartum support, but that was not high on
Right.
the consideration scale.
Yeah.
We liked the fact that we would have someone in our corner. We were lucky enough to find you that was, leans the way that we lean. You took the time to understand things that were important to us. So we felt confident going into that day that, like you said, there's someone else in our corner. Birth can be so fast, and it can be so lots of noise, lots of decisions that need to be made quickly, and it can go from 0 to 100. And
Yeah, it's
just
intense.
feeling like you have someone there that you've talked about these things. And so at bare minimum, there's going to be someone to, like you said, take a beat, take a second and say, okay, is this really what we want? Do we have any other options? And go from there and make the best decision for our team. But like you mentioned, the postpartum part is not something that we super considered.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of forget about that.
And it was a total bonus afterwards, getting the message of, when should I stop by, or can I come today? And it's like, yes, that's lovely. And then after those visits, each time feeling more and more supported, and feeling like you have more knowledge after each visit was just so wonderful.
There's so many things that creep up after, and you can't prepare for that. You're so focused
You have no idea.
on birth, right? You really don't. And you don't know
can't.
until you're in it.
Yes.
And so you don't know what you don't know.
Yes, you don't know
And
what you
then
don't
you have
know.
all these questions. And so a doula is great for that, just texting or calling or whatever, being
Yes.
like, hey, I'm noticing this, or I'm
Yes.
seeing this, or is this normal? That's probably the number one question. Is this normal?
Is this normal?
Yes, just reassure them.
I think one thing that postpartum that opened my eyes a lot was, and that I was so taken by, was that you had, helped us out with, was the growth spurts, or the feeding windows where they would cluster feed. What are those called?
Yeah,
They're
that's
just
exactly
cluster
what they do.
feeding?
Yep.
Yeah. So I remember you would come in and you're like, well, from day this to day this, they're going to notice this. And it was very specific. And in the moment, you're like, it cannot be that way for everybody. It is, at least in my experience, and talking to other women, it is almost to a T that way.
Yeah.
And that you had just been like, there should be a chart on this. Like,
Totally.
day 3 to day, or you would know it better, but they're going to go through times where you can't put them down. They just need to eat constantly.
Yeah.
So
and
that
when
was cool.
someone is reassuring you, this is normal baby behavior, they need to do this for, these reasons, then you have that reassurance and you're like, okay, we can get through this. And then, there's kind of like, there will be an end to this, right?
Yes.
Like usually these things are short-lived, but they can be very intense.
Right.
And often have moms thinking, I don't have enough milk or something's wrong.
Right.
And it's like, nope, this is totally normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's rewind to meeting a couple. You come in to their house typically, or you meet up with them.
Yeah.
What are your objectives in getting to know that couple in those early days?
Well, the first thing I always want to establish is whether or not we're a good fit for each other.
Right.
Because that's key. If I sense there's any hesitation, or I guess just someone's maybe not, well, a lot of time, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes you'll have one, like say the mom really wants to hire a doula, and then maybe the dad's like, I'm not too sure about this, right? And often a financial component is in there, and that's totally understandable. So sometimes one of them has to be convinced.
Yes.
But if I have to do too much of that, or feel like I have to, then that's maybe not a good fit. And you just really want to have everybody feeling comfortable with each other. If someone can't be completely honest, then that's not good, right?
Right.
Like I said before, everyone needs to be on the same page. So if I just feel like there's any kind of tension or I guess hesitation, then it either requires like, hey, let's sit down and meet again, or you two talk, and then like we'll
back to me.
revisit
Yeah.
this, right? Which is totally fine. But so I think there's a lot of that in the beginning, right? Like, let's see if we're a good fit, and if kind of our mindsets are similar. I'm totally fine with someone who wants to plan a birth completely different than I would, because it's not about me.
Right.
But if I feel like we're going to be kind of fighting each other, for lack of a better term, on
Yes.
things, then that doesn't really make
Defeats the
sense, right? Or
purpose.
if I know someone, maybe this mom has a special condition and I know a doula that would be better suited, who
Right.
has more experience dealing with that, then to me that's a natural thing.
Right.
Like, just refer out, kind of,
Right.
because I want everyone to have the best experience possible.
Totally.
So yeah, in those first couple meetings or times we talk, it's really just getting to know each other, making sure we're a good fit, that we're all going to be on the same page, and then really finding out exactly what their wishes are in terms of birth and how much they know.
Right.
Because if a couple come in and they really, have never been interested in birth or babies, or just have really little experience, then that requires a lot more prenatal education, which I love doing. But yeah,
Just
it's
changes
it
the
changes
course, yeah.
a little bit, right? Just more time would be required there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we that was a little bit of our case.
Yeah.
I was so super interested in having a doula as that extra hand of support.
Yeah.
We are, I guess, our distance from our family, we're not super close to family, and that was a fear I had, that I would not have that other layer of support.
Right.
My husband obviously has never seen birth before, so
Yeah. Not many of them have.
it for me it was a lot of support for him. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted him hands on. I thought, ended up not wanting him hands on, just because he didn't have that confidence to come in and apply the pressure the way an experienced birth support worker has.
Yeah.
But we did have that. Like, we had to go through that. It was a lot of convincing for us. But the one thing, so we're in Ontario.
Yeah.
This is always a complaint I have with having a baby. You don't get to choose who's delivering your baby in a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You get to choose, are you going to go OB or midwife?
Yep.
And within that, I'm sure there's a little bit of flexibility, but it's not like you get to go out and interview different firms and decide who is.
Definitely not.
So for where we live, we only have a couple midwifery services that will even service this area.
Yep.
And within that, you get assigned to someone who has time around your due date.
Right.
And I'm sure it's similar for OB. I don't totally know.
Well, yeah, even probably worse, because you're just kind of at the mercy of whoever is on call that day.
Oh, even worse, right? So with midwife, you're given a team and you get to meet the 2 to 5 people, I'm sure it is, that are within that team, and you do your appointments with the different midwives. You do have a lead midwife, but whoever ends up being on call is who's delivering your baby.
Yeah.
And I got very lucky in my first, and that was my sister-in-law delivered. But future pregnancies won't be quite as lucky. So then what I liked about a doula was this is someone I get to pick.
Absolutely.
This is a provider that I sat down with, I got to interview, and I got to choose to, opt to have in my space. So it's a very personal decision.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. And yeah, like you said, you have consistency with them.
Yes.
Right. You've already spent so much time together during the pregnancy. Everyone theoretically should be on the same page going into the birth. So yeah, it kind of takes some guesswork out, and there's just this level of comfort that you have with each other. Right. And so that builds trust, which is really, really important.
So important.
Yep.
Yeah. To, like, we keep going back to know that person in your birth space is got your best interest in mind and knows what your wishes are, because from one mother to another, it won't be always the same.
Exactly.
So remembering, where was their drop dead, like their line, and trying to stick to it for them.
Yeah. I always tell people, kind of choose your hills that you want to die on.
Yeah,
right. These are the ones that we're not, or the lines we're not crossing, kind of thing. But also, always, like, a doula helps the couple realize you are kind of at the whim of the birth process, right? And to be flexible.
Right.
And then, so that's part of the education too. You kind of say, okay, so in this stage, these things could happen, right? And this is what's normal, this is what's abnormal. And just, so you're kind of taking some of the guesswork out too, because you've prepared them.
Right.
So you're not blindsided, because that would not be a fun experience at birth. I mean, it does happen in rare cases, but hopefully you've at least had a conversation about most, like, the common things, right, that can come up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'd love to jump into like the birth process and different ways you can support. Have we talked about everything in the intake process or anything you want to touch on there?
Yeah, I think so. I think just what I find is key is just making sure you have a good fit and that you trust who you're with and you're comfortable with. Because if you're holding back any part of yourself or you're reserved, that's not going to make for a good birth experience, right? You want to just feel completely free and, again, comfortable with whoever you're around, because it's a really vulnerable state to be in, right? So if you're feeling like you need to hold back in any way, or you're like self-conscious,
Right.
that is not going to be a good thing in birth, because you really have to surrender to the process.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's hard for a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you have this total stranger that you're kind of half comfy with,
it won't work.
No, it won't go
You're
well.
already like that with anyone else in the room. So
So especially for those who have, say, gone to the OB avenue or have, a family doctor that has delivering privileges. When you have a doula, like you said, that person is constant. So you know that they're going to be in your corner and you're good with them. And even though the other people in the room could change, that person will not change.
Right.
Yeah.
So then when do you advise that they give you a call, a laboring mother? When are you typically getting that update, or when would you hope to get that update?
Okay. So birth is imminent is what you mean, right?
Yes.
So generally I like to know kind of the first, I guess, stage, right? So sometimes women feel like they're actually coming down with a flu. In those kind of last weeks, I like to be in really good contact with my clients. So we're touching base every couple days, right? Especially if you're going over your due date, then I'm probably touching in like every other day kind of thing, right? So it's nice to kind of get a heads up. Like the mom might text me and just be like, hey, I'm feeling this, or I saw this when I went to the bathroom, or whatever, I'm experiencing these symptoms. What do you think? And then I can be like, yep, that sounds like early labor. Don't get excited. Just keep, going on business as usual. But that doesn't really warrant a phone call, right?
Right.
If your water breaks, then that's generally a good sign that labor is right around the corner. It doesn't mean things are going to start right away, but that's usually, okay, call your doula kind of thing, right? And then you can talk through what the mom's experiencing. And then we usually say, okay, I would do this or this, and just kind of give you direction, right? Because a lot of it, you just don't know what to do, right? You're like, should I be sleeping? Should I go for a walk? Should I do this? And so we can advise you based on what your symptoms are or what you're feeling, right? And another kind of rule of thumb is, so if your water doesn't break, because that only happens in about 20% of cases, spontaneous rupture, you just call us when you've been having regular contractions for about an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no
spacing between,
right? Or just, regular in that, they're coming kind of at the same intervals, right? And they're not getting weaker.
Okay.
Right. So they're regular. Yeah. And usually a good working contraction is felt all the way around, kind of like a donut, right?
Yeah.
So that's always a good kind of rule of thumb. If you're only feeling something in the front or the back and it's just kind of more like a twinge, then things are happening, but it's not something to get excited about quite yet.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain that to my husband the other day about that, the contraction, the difference it feels, because when you have to get Braxton Hicks, you get like a little cramp or and you always wonder, like, what will that eventually feel like? You not having given birth or going through labor, what will that feel like? Even like we talked about with breastfeeding, or you don't even know how to conceptualize what this will feel like, or how you're going to experience it. So you're so curious, and then it's almost like a no-brainer when you finally feel that first contraction, and it wraps fully around, and it's kind of all encompassing and kind of grows in intensity or lessens.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
In our case, we waited. Well, labor just went so fast.
I was going to say, it went quick.
We didn't call. We did call finally when the water broke.
Yes.
But then from there, it just like escalated much faster than I think anyone could have imagined.
Yeah.
But then I guess walk us through. So mom has called. It's time. You think it's time you're going to head over to the house or the hospital, wherever you're going to be. What are your goals physically, emotionally? How do you support mom? How do you support dad? Like, what are those? What does that look like?
Okay.
For someone trying to picture it.
Yeah. Well, and one thing to kind of note is to get an idea of what the couple wants from you.
Right.
From or in birth, right? Like in those early kind of hours, I guess we'll say. Some women want me there right away.
Right.
Whereas others want kind of just space to just the couple to be, on their own and just me checking in by phone, which is totally fine. But those conversations need to happen, ahead of time, if at all possible.
Yeah.
So then kind of once that's decided, and sometimes I'm saying, okay, I think I should come. Other times it's more of me asking, okay, how are you feeling? Do you want me there already? Because I'm fine with that. Or do you want me to just check in an hour kind of thing, right? So I get my stuff together and then I head in and I'm just focusing on just keeping the woman in a good frame of mind, right? Keeping her calm, but not saying things that are kind of condescending, like, don't be stressed, or just, I would never say to someone, calm down, right? Because that's ridiculous. But it's just noticing where tension is creeping in physically and maybe emotionally. I always like to come in and kind of read the room, right? Like if I feel like there's any kind of weird tension between the couple, then it's me trying to kind of figure out what that is, but also getting them to like maybe have a conversation. And maybe that requires me, hey, like, I think you guys just need some time on your own kind of thing. But yeah, I always want to just keep things kind of peaceful and calm so that the mom can kind of find her zone if she hasn't and keep her there, right? But also pretty early on, pain control, right? And management comes into play, right? So it's just me using my toolbox, right, of things, whether it's hands-on or it's more just words of affirmation, right? Some people really find like those words of encouragement are good. And so that's also something that I like to kind of hash out ahead of time too, right? Because some people have maybe a phrase that really works for them and has in the past, right? So it's like, find out what those are and what kind of words you want spoken over you and whether or not that's coming from the partner or from me.
Right.
I just think those are good things to know, right? Because there could even be like trigger words too that could oppositely affect things, right? So, just doing that kind of thing. And then it's very much just jumping in where needed, right? Like in a very practical sense, right? So whether that's warm washcloths or cold washcloths or counter pressure, I really like to know kind of where contractions are being felt, because then that helps me to be able to suggest certain positions, right? Why don't we try this? I'm a big one for, okay, we've done this for a while, let's get up and move, right? And I warn people ahead of time. I will try not to be annoying about it, but this is the reason why I'm going to say like, hey, let's get up and go to the bathroom and sit there for, say, 3 contractions, right? And I think too, when you kind of put those markers on it, like, okay, let's do this for 3 contractions.
Yeah.
That's like
It's
the goal,
yeah,
right?
There's something to look forward to.
And then we got through that. So now let's try, maybe laying on your side.
Right.
Let's stay here for 6 contractions kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's a marker, like you said, something that they can measure.
Yep.
I found that super helpful. Like I'm a very goal-oriented person too. So to have even like that, I've never been through labor, so to have someone in the room that knows what the stages are and can see them just from how I'm acting. Yeah. Also having a sister-in-law who's a midwife, I've gotten to hear a lot about this, that just based on that call, when they first call you can learn a lot. Like if a woman's calling you like, oh, I think I'm going through transition. Like, you wouldn't probably be making this call then. And just different things like that. Like you guys have so much experience that you've been able to walk in that room, hear the voice, see the tendencies of the mom, and be able to understand where that baby is likely or what stage she's going through. And I find that super interesting, and how you can support them and give her goals. One thing that I asked a couple times for my labor was like, how much longer? Which is like a very hard question to answer. But it kind of is a nod back to you saying like, women want that measurable piece. Like, am I close? Like it's similar to checking your dilation, but different, right? Like how much longer am I doing well? Is the baby
Yes.
coming? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of meet that?
Yeah. Well, so it's a constant to like reassuring both, because the dads are freaking out inside too, for the most part. So a lot of this is normal, and just affirming like because you'll hear the, I can't do this, or I'm not doing this right, or, you know, and it's like, no, everything right now that's going on is going on perfectly. Everything is normal. You're doing so well. So it's constantly just trying to build her up and let her know she can trust her body, which is a big, big deal. But that she's doing it, like, especially when I can't, it's like, but you are, you're literally doing it right now. So let's just take this one contraction at a time. Don't think about the rest. And I really like when those questions of time start coming on, I'm like, we're not going to worry about that because things are going so well right now. You're doing beautifully. So let's focus on that and just take this one contraction at a time, right? Ride the wave and then just breathe it away, let it go, and don't hold on to that tension. And I think a good thing to mention too is how I'm there to support the husband or partner.
Yeah, that is good to talk
And so that's one thing that I do too, kind of early on, is just trying to figure out where he's at and how he's feeling, you know, about things. And if I sense nerves, then maybe it requires a conversation about, you know, whatever he's nervous about, or just directing him just gently, like, hey, how about you try this? Because a lot of times they're just like fish out of water.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do, what to expect. Because generally men don't sit around and watch birth stories or talk about them, right? So how can they know, right?
Yeah.
So it's just helping them to feel, and they want to feel useful, right? Because men like to fix things and make things better. So it's understanding that and kind of empowering them to do that, right? So, and it's just great to be able to spell them off. Like some men feel so guilty if they need to go off and go to the bathroom or grab a snack for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but that's also why I'm here,
Yeah,
right?
you
You
need
can
to.
feel free to do that, and your partner's not going to feel deserted.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and no, it's so important. In my case, Aaron, my husband, wanted to apply that pressure on my back, but we had never practiced that. He did not know what to do. He'd seen maybe videos, so he knew that was something that needed to be done. But when he went to do it before anyone was really here, I was like, don't. And then the difference between having your support workers come in, midwife, doula, whoever it may be, apply that pressure. It's a different confidence, and you just are like the difference in my case was just like, honey, let them do it. Yeah. It's not that I didn't want him there, but I needed him in a different role for me. Yeah. I wanted him to hold my hand. I wanted him, I wanted to see him. I wanted him in front of me.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
I wanted
to visually
have
them
I liked
right
that he was with me. And honestly, I didn't want to hear from anyone else too much. Like there were moments I did and it helped. But I really liked a very quiet room. Yeah. Like it was important to me. I found my zone and I was in it. Yep. And I just wanted to stick there because I could ride the contractions out, and I'd found what worked for me. Yeah. Not immediately, but I found it. Yeah. I was able to ride that out with my husband by my side. So no, it can be such a wild ride, and trying to figure out or pinpoint exactly, because you can have the conversations ahead of time, but you don't really know what you want until you're in that space, right?
And you don't know how you're going to react.
Totally.
Too, right? And so I'm all about just preserving the birth space, and making it not about me, because it's not like I want them to have this beautiful experience, especially when it's a first time, right? Like this is all very new. And you're becoming this family unit. It's a really big transition. So it's just kind of protecting that and letting them do their thing, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously you step in when you need to, but I love just kind of watching from afar and just kind of whispering in little suggestions. But a lot of times it's not me being in there all the time, right?
Right. You're just sensing when your support is needed. So then how do you find trying to balance that with, you are the support worker, but you're not the attending physician or midwife or OB, you're not technically delivering the baby.
Nope. We hope that we never have to. We could if we really needed to.
So how do you walk that line or help like with that balance in the room or?
Yeah, I think it's just about kind of knowing your place and respecting all individuals in there, right? We all have a role and they're all important.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes a lot of times, especially at a home birth, I am helping the midwives.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not stepping on their toes, right? I know what their role is. And at the end of the day, like my friends and I who are like other doulas, we kind of talk about, we have the fun, right?
Yeah.
Like we get to come in and just love on the couple,
Yeah.
validate their experience, be in their corner and provide, education and reassurance and support and all that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fall on our head, right? So we are not
It's kind of that sweet spot.
liable. So it is. And we don't even have all the paperwork that they have to worry about, right? So that's also why it's great to have us there, because
I was going to touch on this.
those primary caregivers, like they've got a lot of
a
stuff
job
that
to
they
do.
have to do, right? And they're documenting everything, which is, that's what you want. A lot of things that they have to check on.
Yeah, it was more so than I realized. So
Yeah.
it was so important. I'm glad we did it for many reasons.
Yeah.
Had you there, but one thing I'd heard a lot of is your birth worker or your midwife or OB has a lot of paperwork. They
Yep.
are constantly monitoring and having to note down what they're monitoring.
Yep.
And they'll, in my case, left the room multiple
Yeah.
times to work on their paperwork, to touch base with each other,
Yep.
to keep things moving.
Yep.
And also they're just a human, so they need to go to the
Exactly.
washroom. They need to
Yeah.
get a drink of
Yeah.
water. They need to take a break. And in those moments, you're never alone because you
Yes.
have your doula there.
Yep.
Even postpartum, I found that a
Yeah.
lot too.
Yep.
Or during pushing and the early moments postpartum, your midwife is attending to your baby also. They're split. They have
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
a lot of work to do, and your doula is still there by your side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so nice to have that.
It's so nice
Just
to have that.
reassurance and just that consistency.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I guess before we go on to like postpartum support, what can we talk a little bit how your like massage therapy background helps
Yeah.
in this labor space?
Sure. Again, a lot of people, what kind of attracts them to me is the fact that I've got all that hands-on, I guess, technical knowledge, if we want to call it that. And I also have a lot of training in anatomy and physiology, right? This is what your body's capable of. This is how it should move. This is how it shouldn't move. These things are going to add to tension later. So I'm always mindful of that. If I see women doing certain things that I know will kind of bite them in the butt later, from like a tension perspective or just a positioning thing, then I'm just all over that because I want to make their postpartum experience
Right.
really great too, right? So there's that, but then obviously being able to do certain massage therapy techniques, right? Again, some women think they're going to love it and then
Yeah.
they don't, but at least I have that and I can provide that, right?
Yep.
And I'm not going to do anything invasive or things that I shouldn't, that could hinder anything
Right.
in any way. So I think it all works really well together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge draw for us. I remember reading through some of what you offered,
Yep.
knowing that you have that knowledge of the body and system was really
Yep.
a huge part of our decision. So,
Yeah.
and it came in handy, which was nice.
Yeah.
So,
And even after too, right? If you're saying, man, like I feel, this spot is super tense or really sore, like what did I do? Then I'm able to, okay, like let's figure out what's going on
Yeah.
and talk about like remedial exercises and stretches
Yeah.
that can be done after, right? So
Amazing.
just postpartum care.
Yeah,
and
it's a
some
huge
women
bonus.
will get me to like give them a massage after.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
Part of
that
the
works.
service.
Yeah, exactly. And of course I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, absolutely.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
sweet. So maybe taking a step along the same line, but is there anything else you suggest for women in terms of like working on breath work techniques, or you mentioned some stretching and different things like that? Is there anything that can help or that you suggest? Another one was birth affirmation cards.
Yep.
Anything like that?
So if you're prepping for birth, then my go-to is always anything written by Ina May Gaskin.
Oh,
So
yes.
she is an incredible midwife. She really was a pioneer. And was more active kind of 70s and 80s. She's from the States, but she has written so many amazingly helpful books. And I always tell women, especially like number one go-to would be The Guide to Childbirth that she wrote. That was, I think, one of her first books. And it just really outlines all the different scenarios that could creep up, what is normal, what is not normal, what your choices are in those moments. And then it's full of all these incredible birth stories. And I'm a big believer in talking to women who are going to give you positive birth stories, because so many women want to share their horror stories. And I don't know why we do that to each other, because it's not helpful and you're just kind of instilling fear. And so I'm about celebrating birth. It's a normal physiological process. It's not a disease. And so I want to celebrate the positive stories and have women share those and feel like it's okay to share those. And then it really helps, because you're in labor and maybe you're experiencing something similar to a story that you read, or someone told you something and you remember, hey, like they said they tried this, so I'm going to do that. And it also just helps you, gives you confidence, because you're like, somebody has been in this situation, in this scenario. You know, hundreds and thousands of women have done this. I can do this too, right? It just gives you that extra confidence. And then she also has a book, Birth Matters, and that really changed everything for me.
Really?
It's kind of like her, I don't know if you call it like a manifesto or something. It's beautiful. And there's a chapter specifically for the birth partner. And I love that. So I always encourage my couples to get that book. Sometimes I just, let them borrow my own, but read it, because it's so helpful.
My husband, actually, this is where he got more on board with everything, is reading this book. And I think he even found it on Audible, so he was able to listen to it while he drove. And then to continue that, we found it so helpful hearing other stories that we probably listened to 20 to 50 YouTube vlogs where people would highlight their experience during their birth. And some of it was so super redundant. You'd hear a lot of the same things, but in a lot of ways, like you said, everyone's experience is so different. And when we got into labor, we felt super armed with, this seems normal. I've heard this happen. Women have done this in this scenario. It helped them. Oh, not helping me. Let's try something.
Exactly.
So even if it's not going to be the same as your birth, it can help you with feeling armed, like you said, or in your toolkit of knowledge. So yes, we read the books, we listened to the audiobooks, and we listened to a lot of vlogs, home birth. We wanted a home birth, so home birth vlogs, home births that didn't work out vlogs, and we really liked the real-time videos. I don't know how people actually get those footage live. I asked my husband, can you record our birth? Like, can you try to vlog the whole thing? I think we got 2 videos, so things pick up. But no, they're super helpful to anyone that posts those.
For sure.
But I can totally agree that that's a good,
so
good
reading
time.
good resources like that, and also just taking care of yourself, right? One of the kind of main insurance policies, I guess, that you can provide for yourself so that birth goes well is to take care of yourself. So that's nutrition. It's huge. Not stressing out about it, because that can also reversely affect things. But taking care of yourself, and that's also like exercise. So I always encourage women, get out there and get active. 30 minutes a day is all you need, but don't stop doing that. On the flip side, it's also not the time to start training for a marathon, right? So if you've never done anything, then you need to really gradually start that process, but do start the process, right? Because it requires a lot of stamina in birth,
it's a workout.
right? And it's a full-on, full-body workout. So if you're out of shape, it's going to be more difficult for you. But then also, if you're too in shape and everything is so tight, right, because you've overtrained, then that can work against the birth process too, right? So it's just finding that sweet spot. So that's also, where we can come and play, but also we can point you to different healthcare professionals that provide those kinds of services, like doing prenatal
like perineal massage, or
and more like prenatal classes from like exercise standpoint, right? So doing that kind of thing. So they're able to know, okay, let's make sure these muscles are in like really good shape, but also strengthening what we need to, but then stretching out what we need to too, right? So there's lots of like personal trainers and stuff like that
help work with that.
But you want someone who specifically knows about pregnancy, because a pregnant body is very different, than a non-pregnant body.
I couldn't believe how, and this is not to scare anyone, but how much in pain between my ribs were after I gave birth. Like
Yeah, your intercostals.
Yeah,
are
my
a mess.
intercostals were so sore after it, and not in a terrible, like it didn't hold me back or anything. I
Yep.
mean, you're mostly just sitting afterwards, but
Yep.
I just couldn't believe like
Yeah.
probably all the pushing or whatever. Yeah, it's a full
Exactly.
body workout.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just being able to reassure again, that's normal.
Yeah.
But these are the like kinds of self-care that you can do afterwards, right?
totally.
Yeah. Because some women feel like they've been hit by a bus,
100%.
especially if you've had a really long labor.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. I always feel so sorry for those women.
So then how do you play that support role immediately postpartum? And then what does it look like returning back to help care for the mother, her breastfeeding journey and different things like that? And is that always included in your services? Or?
Yes. Yeah. So I always stay with a couple until a really good feed has happened, like right after the birth. So I don't force babies to the breast ever. It's just not a helpful way to start things. So we just kind of let that process happen organically. But I'm there to support and make sure, that we can get the best possible latch in that moment. Sometimes babies have lip or tongue ties and, you have to kind of work around that. But get a good feed in, make sure that both the mom and the dad feel kind of comfortable with what's gone on. Get them kind of tucked in if they're at home or settled, if they're at the hospital. And then just talk about, okay, so I'm going to come back usually within the first 24 hours. And generally that's just to help with feeding, right? Just if they're looking to breastfeed exclusively, then that's always the main focus in those early days, right? Because getting off to a good start is crucial if you want it to succeed.
Right.
So helping with that. And then generally I see them 1 or 2 times after.
Amazing.
Yeah. If more care or education or help is needed with breastfeeding, then we can talk about that and get that kind of booked in. But yeah, generally it's about 2 to 3 postpartum visits.
Yeah, which like I said, I found so helpful, and I even found helpful. So we wanted to exclusively breastfeed.
Yeah.
And you hear so much. Again, you don't know what you don't know, and until you're in it. A lot of the noise I had been hearing was you don't want to breastfeed too long that they'll never take a bottle. And for some reason that just stuck with me.
Yep.
So in hindsight, I'm still breastfeeding my son. He's 13 months old. But at the time that felt so important. And anytime I'd be breastfeeding him around family or anyone that didn't know our situation would be like, well, how long are you going to breastfeed him for? And maybe they weren't meaning it in a condescending way or to be rude, but just a genuine curiosity. Like, why are you still breastfeeding him
I know.
when you have this other option? So that was very important to me, but I, for some reason, was so fearful that what if he never takes a bottle?
Right.
And I remember this is, months after or weeks after our, postpartum visits had ended, but I remember turning to you just being like, what am I to do here? Like, should I start letting my husband offer a bedtime bottle? Like that's the one biggest suggestion everyone's been giving me. Yeah. Should I be letting them bond? That was so important in those days. And in hindsight, you had messaged after and said listen, you're so close. At 6 months, they're going to start solids, and then your breastfeeding journey actually will naturally slow down. And if that's something you're looking for, you're almost there. You're so close, keep going type thing. Yeah. But in hindsight, also, the bottle was not super important to me at all. I did not, I wasn't feeling overwhelmed. I just was feeling this societal pressure of, why is this wrong? Am I setting my son up for failure? Yeah. You know? And so that was something we connected on often about.
For sure.
How much longer should I be doing this? Am I doing it too often? So that was something we leaned on you for.
Yeah.
For the support.
And so there's a lot of reassuring, for feeds and stuff and newborn care too, right? So there's just so many unknowns, but the biggest thing is just finding out what works for you, right? There's not necessarily a whole bunch of rights and wrongs, right? And but there are all these pressures and questions from the outside world, and it's helping the couple navigate those.
Just navigating what's important to you and what.
Figure out what your priorities are.
So many reasons and different avenues you can take, but we found that all super helpful.
Yeah, and I've had to help women who were faced with having to have surgery within 2 months of their birth.
Oh wow!
So navigating that process, right? And breastfeeding was really important to them. So it's okay, so this is how we can make this work for you, right? So you never know what's going to get thrown at you, but it's super helpful to have someone
in your corner.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing we keep coming back
Yeah.
to. It's just that personal advocate, someone that knows you and has been through it and
Yeah.
has a little bit more insight, but also knows what's important to the couple.
Yeah, and it's hard to be able to just call up your midwife and say, "Hey,
Right.
does the umbilical cord like does this look okay? Like, should it be falling off already?" Or
Right.
all of like just those newborn questions. And I remember talking to you about the first bath.
Yes.
Right. That's always a big deal for couples
That
too,
was a
right?
big
So it's like,
deal.
okay, let's walk through some different options here, right?
Yeah,
And what
I
could work
forgot
good
about
for
that.
you. Yeah.
And that's something I pass off to my sister-in-laws,
Yeah.
different people that have children. And honestly, something we still do is
Mm-hmm.
we held off Everest's first bath until he was a week old, which
Yep.
again, we got a lot of pushback on that. But we stood by it and we said to him, he doesn't
yeah.
need it. This is all healthy
Totally.
for him to have. And
Yep.
to protect him and keep him, healthy
Mm-hmm.
and strong. But when we did start bathing him, I would be in the tub with
Yeah.
him. And I know this is a story that you passed on, you
Yeah,
had done as well.
it's so great.
So I would breastfeed him in the tub. And to this day, like I said, he's
Mm-hmm.
13 and a half months and I still will get in there. Not as often as I used to. It was a nightly thing. At a point. We did this
yeah.
nightly because
Yeah.
it was like witching hour. He'd be
Yep.
getting fussy. So the warm bath calmed him when he was
Totally.
little. And then we started this we were doing it daily by 2 weeks. We wouldn't always
Okay.
wash him.
Yeah. Yep.
But we would get in there and it was part of our routine.
Yes.
And Ever slept through the night by 2 weeks. Like he was,
There
so
you go.
anyway,
Yeah.
I get in and he'd do a nice big warm feed.
Exactly.
And it was so bonding for us. And I
Yep.
did this religiously for like the first year.
Yep.
And then now even I'll be get in there and he's splashing around playing with his toys
Yeah.
and he'll come over and
It's
latch
adorable.
which eventually we'll have to separate
right.
from. But for now, it's okay.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
But yeah, it is all those little tips and tricks and things that it's so funny. I can't believe how fleeting that was as a year ago. But
Yeah.
they were in that moment. That was a really big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah, it
That
is.
is, I would say that is one of the, diaper stuff, right? All of that, like, how do I care for that whole process? But bathing is a
Yeah.
huge thing for people.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm so
Yeah.
glad that we had you in that experience to walk us through that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, because you want it to be a positive experience,
Totally.
right? And it's something so different for the babies, and it can
Yes.
be kind of traumatic if you're
Totally.
maybe not super prepared for
Yeah.
it, right? And I think you maybe don't even know that that's going to happen. So again, having someone say, "Hey, have you thought about how you want this to play out, and what do you
Yeah.
want your first and their first experience to be?" And
Yeah.
here's some suggestions.
Yeah, and now he's a little water bug and just loves to swim
Yeah.
and loves it.
Yeah.
So we attribute that to so many positive bath experiences.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing that doulas can help is to navigate the family dynamic that enters
good.
very quickly after, right? And everyone has a different way that they want that to play out. Some people, I think some of it's kind of culture related to, right? Some cultures are very like the more the merrier, and they want everyone there all the time. And then others are very much not that way. Some people have family support nearby, others don't. And so it's just kind of, like navigating, okay, what do you want visits to look like, and giving them suggestions, because some people don't even think about it, right? And then they're in these situations and they find like they're so stressed out, they're so uncomfortable. And especially when it comes to breastfeeding, if you want it to go well and there's any kind of struggle, because most people have a few challenges to overcome when it comes to breastfeeding, then if they're like constantly bombarded by family visits, it's going to interrupt that process, right? So it's just gently, respectfully having those conversations and, getting them to think about things kind of differently, or maybe like even having a plan in place. Like some people literally have a jar on their counter, and it's like, hey, if a family member or whoever is coming over to visit, you take a sheet of paper out of the jar and it's giving you a household chore
my
to do,
gosh, that
right?
is
So if you're
smart.
coming for a visit, great, but here's a way that you can be helpful for us, right?
Amazing.
And it's just talking through what boundaries to set, because
Yeah.
it's key. And if you don't set them,
Yes.
it can be a very stressful thing. And especially if the mom and the dad have a different way of looking at that, that's hard.
Yeah, and just remembering too, like mom and dad are different. We're raised different, so their
Yeah.
families are different. Your families
Yeah.
will support in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think any future pregnancies, that's something we've learned from the first time too. Is there's no such thing as too much communication in this sense or in this case, because if there are wishes you hope for, or if
Yep.
there's a way you want it to unroll after,
Yep.
it can't be unclear.
Yeah.
Especially when
Yep.
you've taken other children into case when it's not your first
Yep.
pregnancy. In our case, we have dogs and we have a house, and was important to me that my husband could be with me
Yes.
and not take care of our guests. And that was
Right.
something we fell into very quickly. Guests would visit. My husband is a caretaker. He wants to provide. So he would cater to our guests and
Yep.
making teas, making food,
Yep.
making sex. But my husband just went through something tough, and this is a big transition. So he should be with me, resting
Totally.
while our guests bring us tea, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's that, like you said, walking that fine line, and it's really cool to have,
Yeah.
the support of someone that can help you navigate that too.
And sometimes if we sense it's going to be an issue, it's like, hey, we would, advise have those conversations with your family members ahead of time so that they're not blindsided after, and they don't just think it's like this open door policy where they can
Right.
show up unannounced whenever they want,
Yeah.
unless that's something you're really okay with, right? But figuring out first what you're okay with,
Right.
what you want those first days to look like.
Yeah.
And also knowing that depending on how the birth goes, you might change that up.
Totally.
Right? If you've had a really hard, difficult birth, you need time to just heal. And I always tell people if they feel pressured, oh, but so-and-so wants to see the baby. I'm like, and they will.
Yeah.
They will.
We'll get
But
there.
you guys are the priority, and no one else is going to kind of protect this space and this newly formed family dynamic.
You don't get those
except
days
you.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone will get to see the baby, but just really kind of think of or make a plan, I guess. And boundaries are key.
And communicating those boundaries. Yeah. It's hard to do. It's
It
not
is.
easy.
Yeah, because people are well-meaning and, and it's, especially when it's your first, you just want to show them off to
Totally,
everybody,
yeah.
right? But then there's also things to consider depending on it, like time of year too, right? If it's in the middle of the winter,
Right.
then unfortunately that brings cold and flu season too,
Oh, I
right?
didn't even
So
think of that.
Yep, it's having
Wow.
those conversations. And, so often we're kind of educating the couple on, okay, these are maybe some good kind of, not protocols, because that sounds so
No, but it's true.
clinical,
Yeah.
but have these things in place or ask
Oh,
these
wow.
things of your
Didn't even
visitors
consider that.
because RSV is a huge,
It's a big deal,
Yep,
yeah.
a huge deal. It lands babies in the hospitals all the time.
And scary and unnecessary.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
from like
protect that
one
space.
well-meaning kiss from,
Yes.
auntie whoever, right?
Yeah, that's a
So-
hard community. That's a
Oh,
big
yeah.
deal right now. Like, because
Yeah.
it used to not be a big deal. You'd come in and kiss the baby and it's fine. And now grandmas and grandpas are being told they can't kiss babies,
Yeah.
and it's very confusing for them.
Yeah, well, and I think people are just feeling more kind of in charge of things, and they know it's okay for me to say, you know what, I would rather you don't do this, or these are our rules for right now,
Yeah.
and even kind of acknowledging we might be kind of overprotective,
Yeah.
but this is what makes us feel
Feel
good right now,
comfortable,
and
yeah.
this is our comfort zone. And I mean, I had to teach my kids that.
Yeah.
When we'd bring, the next baby along, it's like, okay, guys, this is okay, but this isn't, even though you're in the same house, right?
Right.
It's just because I want them to do that for others too, right? It's
Right.
not a free for all. Like, just because there's a baby there and they're cute doesn't mean you can just
Love
you
on
have,
them.
you would never go up to a stranger and just touch them.
Right, right.
Yeah,
you have
it's
to
just being
respect that
considerate.
space. Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, those are hard conversations.
They
I didn't even
are.
consider that as part of
Yep.
the consideration with all this.
Yeah, and it happens in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's even just like kind
Yes.
of educating the
You'd be
couple
surprised how
about
many people.
yeah, and it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is really hard, especially like
It is.
for me, I'm very non-confrontational,
Yeah.
and after the fact of like I should not have allowed that to happen, or I should not
Right.
have, and I'll feel guilt afterwards,
Yeah.
but I should have just communicated, and I don't know
Yeah.
this person, please don't touch my baby, or
I
please don't feed
know.
them that, or whatever.
Don't stick your finger in their mouth.
No,
That's gross.
Don't touch them. Yeah, don't touch my child or my belly.
Or your belly. Oh, I always tell people, would you go up to that man over there and just start
Rub
rubbing
his
him?
belly. Yeah.
No.
No, this is all great conversation to have, and some things that you wouldn't think of
Yes.
before
Yep.
getting pregnant even. And I found and continue to find each stage of pregnancy, each stage of motherhood, you're constantly like realizing a whole new world exists and diving deep into that. And
Yep.
and it's ever changing. And
Totally.
one question I did want to ask is, through your experience as a doula, have you found times have changed? We've kind of did touch on it a little bit there, but how so? Would you
Yeah,
say?
I feel like, well, COVID really changed things in some ways for the better when it comes to birth, because I feel like people were realizing maybe hospitals aren't always the safest place to
Right.
be when it comes to this. If you have a completely healthy, kind of quote unquote normal pregnancy and everything's going really well, then a home birth is a completely safe option.
Yeah.
And so people were really gravitating away from hospitals, especially too because there were so many limits and rules and protocols. So that shift, I think, has just continued. And also people are, even just in the simple fact that people are finding, maybe giving themselves permission and feeling more confident in not second guessing, but questioning their healthcare providers and making sure they're really clear on things and standing up for themselves a little bit more, right? And I mean, it's always okay to ask questions. And that's just kind of seems like it's more acceptable now in
Good.
all things
Yeah.
in terms of healthcare. Yes, doctors are very knowledgeable. So are midwives. I mean, that's what they're trained in. But that doesn't mean that they know your wishes completely. And you have to kind of come to a place where each other, you know what kind of the expectations, requirements, whatever are, and what your wishes are. So asking questions if you don't understand something, or saying, is there another option for us,
Yes.
right? That is key, and it's okay. So I feel like that is happening more and more, which is great, because then again, people go away from their birth experience with less regrets.
Totally. Yeah.
And they'll feel really good about it.
Empowered about
Instead of feeling traumatized potentially,
Right.
or beating themselves up for not asking a question that
Right.
they wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear things are moving in that direction, because there's only, it sometimes feels like there's only so much you can control, but all you have are your own self to advocate. And then in your
Yep.
birth space, having, it's a nod to having a doula. And we've
Yep.
touched on it so many times, but we haven't gotten to the specifics. So I'm glad you went
Yeah.
there. Is that's a big reason.
Yep.
We've said many times, you want that person in your corner to advocate for you, but what they're advocating for, you hope never has to come up. So
Yes.
if you really would wish, a small example, postpartum, you just gave birth, oftentimes they'll just give you a shot of Pitocin in the leg, and that's not always necessary. And a lot
Yeah.
of women would prefer not to have that done.
Yeah.
But if your birth provider, say, was not the provider you told about this, so if it's not your lead midwife or your OB, it's just someone that happens to be delivering your baby that day, they might not know or remember that
Yep.
was important to you, but your doula will. If your husband's unable
Yes.
or forgets to advocate for you, then your doula
Yep.
can step in and be like, actually, she didn't want that just yet. Or we definitely don't want to give it a preventative measure, only if necessary. And that's just one of the many, many, many reasons that in our case we use. So no, it's so important. I'm glad things are changing. I'm glad women are feeling like they can speak up for themselves, ask questions, find alternative routes to do things. It doesn't
Exactly.
always have to be cookie cutter, because we're not all the same. And
It's so true. Yeah. And informed consent, that's also a conversation people are having, and how it's key. You can't, women are not making informed decisions if they're just told this is what's going to happen, right? If you're not giving them their options, then you can't really say that's informed consent, right?
Right.
And so those conversations are happening, and just women are realizing there's value in that, and it's important to be making an informed decision, not just going with the flow because that's what's
or based on fear.
normally done, right?
Yeah.
And they'll throw out, well, this is protocol. What does that look like? And what does that mean? Like,
Right.
is this a black and white line that we're not allowed to cross? And why is that?
Yeah.
Or is there some flex there?
Some wiggle
right?
room in there. Yeah. And
Yep.
and it's such a scary thing, especially for first time mothers. I
Yeah.
feel like you do get some confidence as you go along. There's always curveballs.
Yeah.
In our case, we went into our second pregnancy, I guess, spoiler alert, second pregnancy, that we wanted this labor to be even more natural than our completely
Right.
natural first birth. But we wanted to just be a little bit more in control of things. I was hoping to deliver the baby myself and
Yep.
hold, catch the baby myself, not get an episiotomy like I need to the first time. So each pregnancy, I feel like you
Yep.
gain a little bit more confidence or want to do things a little bit more your own way.
Yep.
And just, I forget where I was going with this. I got thrown off, but just feeling like you have that option. It's not fear-based, so you're not being told, well,
Yes.
you know that this is bad for your baby or this will hurt your baby. It's having the knowledge and the support to know that you have other options and you can choose to do things different than the norm if that's what's important to you.
Yeah. And some women are told something, it's sad, but it happens that it's not true.
Oh,
And so it's, you know, again, we can have those conversations and be like, actually, you know, let's just talk about this and unpack this a little bit more kind of thing, right? And just, again, being sure that women know what they're saying yes to or what they're saying no to.
Right.
And informed consent is huge.
And building your team to have that help as you go through these challenges is so important.
Yeah, because it can really turn in a heartbeat. So if you're in a stressful situation, you really want good support there with you, right?
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
This conversation was so important for me to have. I think I went through the struggle of not knowing how to build my birth team, and landing upon you was wonderful. So I think it's great we can share the knowledge to anyone out there looking pregnant, not sure what that support will look like in your room. If you are in Ontario or in the London, Sarnia area, Strathroy area, Mindful Moms and Kristi Waun is something you should definitely check out. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Well, Mindful Moms on Facebook, I think
so
is
on
a
Facebook
good,
and the website for sure.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, word of mouth is a great thing for sure. But yeah, I would love to help anyone seeking the birth that, you know, if they have something specific in mind, right? And just helping women achieve something that they can be proud of. And not go away with trauma, because it happens so often, and that is heartbreaking to me. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just reaching out and asking questions, and maybe it's not me, but I can certainly, you know, refer people on, because I know a lot of people in this birth field for sure.
Totally. And that's what I found more and more at the birth field, is just wanting to find that right fit, and women supporting women, or care providers supporting other care providers. And it's such a big world out there, and there's so many different options, but finding that right person for you is so impactful for your birth and your postpartum experience, and preparing for birth, really. So
I think people they don't understand how important birth is and how that experience will affect them going forward.
Totally.
And if you have a negative or traumatic birth experience, that impacts how you parent that child.
Absolutely.
And it affects your relationship with your partner. So you know, you're not looking for perfection, because that doesn't really exist, but giving it your best shot, right, is key. And there are just so many resources out there. And I think people nowadays, they might be a little bit more stressed in terms of finances.
Right.
And there are options for that too, right? I am so open to working out a plan that works for the couple, that's right? So that's also something just to consider, because I know that's a huge thing, especially for the men, because they're just more like that, right? Like kind of analytical.
Especially in Ontario, we have free healthcare. Why would we pay? Why we have our birth providers covered? Why would we pay to have a support person?
Yeah, but I mean, you do get what you pay for 100%. Too, right? And like we talked about, there are just so many things that we can provide that your healthcare provider, like primary healthcare provider, can't. They just can't. You know, they're not. Doctors are typically not making house calls, right, and visits. So that's one example. But I just, there are definitely options when it comes to finances. So I think that's kind of important to mention.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah.
It's sadly is, and it has to be, you know, a weighing option.
People have to consider it, right? And you don't want it to be a stressful thing. But there are ways to kind of work around it if this is something you truly believe in. We'll make it happen, or I will.
Well, I wanted to thank everyone for tuning in today. This, like I said, this conversation is near and dear to my heart. Kristi's been so helpful in both pregnancies so far, and just touching base with the birth of our first son all the way through to him now at 13 months. So you're an invaluable resource to us, and we hope that we can share the love and other people can enjoy you as well.
Thank you.
So.
It's always an honor to be invited into that space. So I count it a privilege.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.